always covering the topics that most people are afraid to cover. So really, really grateful that Devi was able to join us again this year for this year's boot camp. So without any further ado, Devi, over to you.
Thank you, Raz. Thank you for setting the context. And hello, everyone. So I'm hearing a lot of insightful, updates from the session today, and so happy to, start the 2025 by delivering a session in this very powerful global D365 Bootcamp community. So happy to be part of, this space. So, with a quick introduction, yes, I am Devi. These are my handles, and I'm in the industry for 19 plus years now, delivering different areas of software development lifecycle, predominantly on Microsoft platform and CRM. One of my most interesting areas. I've worked in almost all the functional modules of CRM, and sales, field service, and customer service are my key interest. So I always like delivering sessions, and if there is an area which people have not explored, I always like to understand and deliver it to a wider forum. So that's when I started engaging with Raz in delivering content. But today, this is a well-known product, Sales Copilot. I'm going to deep dive into it on understanding the landscape, what Sales Copilot has in it, and how is the architecture designed, how Dynamics 365 can interact with Sales Copilot. And also, I'm going to touch base on a specific industry while we all understand the features, how in a real time industry we could adopt Sales Copilot when we talk to customers, right? So I have chosen healthcare as the industry for today to talk about, and how healthcare industry can use Sales Copilot for patient healthcare would be the key domain area that I would be covering in the case study area today, right? So, yeah, let me quickly introduce while we are all aware of Copilot at the moment, I still want to touch base on the strong, powerful, definition, I would say, so that, we talk about this product in the market and understand, what all it could offer in a nutshell, right? So Copilot in D365, while we have it for each and every module, predominantly in sales, it is very effective because it is boosting the conversations for the salesperson. So it is, reducing his time of research enormously when he is talking to the customer. It is generating him a lot of talking points so that he is providing the right information, and he is engaging the conversation to very latest topics that customer is interested in. So that's where Copilot plays a very good role. And because he doesn't have to look for an entirely different screen or entirely a different landscape to bring these research points in front of the customer, it is a quick side panel that is assisting him with the talking points, and he is kind of sticking or engaging the conversation with the customer the way it has to be driven, right? So here it helps us to streamline, strengthen, enhance the conversation, and in a very simple way I can ask more queries to it in a language that I'm well aware of. So it supports natural language processing. So any simple queries like show me the open deals for last 1 month, show me the deal which is yielding me high revenue, show me the customer to whom I have to respond today, show me the upcoming meetings, help me to prepare myself for the meeting. So likewise I can have a very interactive chat with the Copilot, and it is going to give me the talking points. And the very interesting fact about like why Copilot can any other tool not provide this information. So we all get this query, right? So Copilot give me governed information, which means I am an Active Directory user. I am an authorized licensed user in the sales space, and I get questions and responses which is authorized to share and support with me. So if I have integrated a website, I am authorized to get the information as source for my Copilot to give me points. If I have integrated SharePoint, the documents authorized to be, generated as content, right? So that governance is a key difference between any tool that is outside the market and any tools that is, in the Copilot space or in the, D365 environment, I would say. That's a key differentiating factor between any GPT tools, any free source, and the governed Copilot for any cloud platforms. So with this quick introduction, I know want to highlight the key features which the Sales Copilot is providing us. So as I keep saying, the record summarization. So the moment I jump into a conversation with the customer, so it is facilitating a quick nutshell information of whom the customer is, what kind of engagement we have with the customer, what are the deals we are working on for the customer, and what are the potential opportunities. And from the time I signed the deal, if there are any key differences, the recent changes that that we are seeing from the time the opportunity has come in or the lead has been qualified. So it is also giving me informations that helps me to support or strengthen the conversation, where I have some entitlements that I have signed with the customer, or I have key documents that has been shared by the customer in email, which I have to pay attention to, right? I could relate all this information by enabling integration to the respective forum. If it is document, I enable SharePoint. If it is, email, I enable Outlook. If it is a chat that is happening in the Teams channel where my coworker is also contributing on a different deal to the customer, so I engage in a group chat, and my Teams conversation is brought into this space. So likewise, a variety of information I could bring, and that is one of the key features that I stitch the story with the available information. So I get prepared for a meeting without putting more effort, without digging into more data. And I get email assistance where it helps me to compose an email. It helps there are small triggers that could copy the email content and help me to facilitate it in the Outlook. Likewise, it also highlights and supports me that, hey, you know what, this mail is waiting for your response for last 7 days. The unanswered emails in a nutshell, it is able to filter and give me in a view form that I could pay attention. So these are the key features, I would say, and the features keep getting extended while I am in the Microsoft platform. We see that every release by Microsoft in the release cycle is adding more features and enabling or strengthening the salesperson to go and target the right audience. So there is a core architecture based on which the Sales Copilot is designed, and Dynamics 365 is going to interact in to the Sales Copilot, or the Salesforce CRM is going to interact with this, Sales Copilot by adopting to this architecture. So if you see, there are four key layers. I would say admin layer, client, service, and data layer, which is governing this entire conversation. So when I say admin layer, it is predominantly the forum from where I want to trigger my Copilot and get used of out of it. For example, if I want to have the Copilot running in my Outlook, so then I would pick up that particular app, the add-in for Outlook. Or if I want to have the Copilot assist me in my Teams conversation, I pick up that right application from the admin layer, get them installed, so that my client has accessibility to the Sales Copilot thing, right? So once I have this app enabled and I open my Teams, I'm going to see the Sales Copilot enabled for me. So it is going to help me with the readily available options of summarizing a meeting, or have a side panel and list me the meetings that are going to upcoming. And it also helps me with I can extend it provides me extension where I could customize the messages. I could bring a pre-configured text, like I give this text and the response has to be designed. So I could bring some structures for by using this message extensions. So I could also build personal apps and still get Sales Copilot integrated to those personal apps within my team's environment. So obviously it is also going to facilitate the group conversations by pulling in additional members to the conversation. So when it is Outlook, the immediate support I'm getting is in terms of structuring an email or responding to an email. So again, their Copilot facilitates in giving me suggestions or recommendations not to miss any key point while I respond to the key customers. So the client layer governs basically on how do I access Copilot from wherever whichever environment I'm trying to respond to. The service layer gives me complete structure of how a trigger request is getting handled. So we have the web artifacts when it comes from the Copilot cloud host, or when it comes to the service layer, I clearly have the architecture defined. Like I have an API layer for each incoming request or each incoming trigger message, I would say, or each prompt in the conversation industry. So for each prompt, my API layer governs so which business logic layer I have to stitch to. Then the business logic layer acts as a middleware between the API and addressing the right API layer, be it integration information that I have to use Microsoft Graph layer to, or it is a OpenAI conversation which I'm fetching from the public website, or if it is information that is available in my dataverse which has to be governed through the CRM data integration. So likewise, there are different handlers that is designed within the web service layer for each and every prompt that we receive from the API layer. So once I have this information, I move on to the data layer. Now I understood that there is a prompt. I understood that the prompt is relating to certain information from one of the data layers. So I carefully pass over this request to the data layer. And sometimes it could be an information from Dynamics 365 sales. It could be from the Salesforce CRM. It could be from any of the integration layer, which is, sitting in my database, could be anything of that sort. And we have handlers to handle all those data and facilitate the information in and convey that information back to my client and support the conversation. So yes, the key structures today, I would readily see that the Sales Copilot can stitch readily with Dynamics 365 Sales and also with Salesforce CRM. The other tools are yet to be channelized, and we always have our custom graph layers to talk to other systems at the moment. So I'm enhancing the conversation by highlighting how a Teams or Outlook trigger would be talking to my D365 Copilot. So for example, I see that there is an incoming email from one of my existing customers, or there is an incoming query from one of my sales colleague who is also working on a similar deal. Then these prompts are received by the Sales Copilot service, so they are channelized using the graph layer for emails or meeting prompts, or if it is an information that about a region where I'm operating, or about a specific industry that I'm operating, or for if I say that it is a specific device that I'm supporting for a different medical device which I'm supporting for a different customer, could be any such query, right? So I am able to apply filters governed with right information and then facilitate, be it a geographical update or a product information or a cost information. So all those things are related, stitched back, and it is sent back to the client layer. So internally, this is how D365 is getting connected, and these are the possible connections. And always we could extend this connectivity and enhance the information that D365 could access from the Sales Copilot. So yeah, once I have the managed app installed from the admin layer, so when I open my Outlook, I'm going to see a new menu called Sales Copilot add-in. So how all these discussions are governed is the two key things. One is the command surface, and the other one is event-based activity. For example, if I'm typing a email, I'm doing a fresh composition of an email, my command surface would facilitate in supporting the conversations for me. And if there are some events, for example, I say reply, I say dismiss, I say reschedule a meeting, I say postpone a meeting, so these are treated as events. So based on the event, it is going to give me information. And so let me pick up an example. So if I say that, reschedule this appointment for a specific customer, and Copilot is going to tell me this is the third time you're rescheduling, or this customer, it will hint you that customer is out of office from this. So do you really want to think before you reschedule? Or it says that customer also told you that, they are going to visit your geography, so do you think you want to convert the Teams meeting into an in-person meeting? So could be any such thing, right? So these are like event-based activations. So I request Copilot or train my Copilot by feeding information, and it is going to give me suggestions back based on the kind of event that I am, hitting on. So these are additional informations which I touch based. So when you're acting from the command surface, or when you're acting from the event based activations, where all I could see the sales copilot to support me. So these are the areas where you see that it is readily available for you, right? If you miss the menu and you're typing entirely into an email, you can also go and see that sales copilot is assisting you from the reply menus. So on the one hint is like when I'm dismissing without paying attention to, it is going to trigger me and say that see, this is the calendar and this is the available. So it suggests me the available time based on the Outlook integration that has been shared with me on the calendar availability. So to deep dive into how the sequence of request flows to the copilot and how the copilot is responding me back. So you see that it is completely governed with authentication. So copilot is enabled for anyone who is part of the Azure Active Directory. So physically I sign in, then I access because I'm licensed to use the IAM 365 Outlook client. Then it authorizes the user via Azure Active Directory, and then the add-in is available for me to launch. So any request that I do, the user interaction or the data flow is governed by the Sales Copilot service that we have seen the layers. So based on the discussion or based on the trigger, it is going to fetch some information from me directly from the Power Platform, some from my CRM core entities, or some from the integrated layers like SharePoint, which I may call it as a extended YAM 365 suite for office data information. So what all operations are possible? I can train it to at the moment in the crude operations. So if I go and ask my sales copilot within the D365 space to create a appointment, right? So probably it might not do that immediately. So but it is going to facilitate, or it is going to give me recommendations of how I can create the appointment and when I can create the appointment. So moving on from the sequence, so I we also can see how the user is interacting and how the authentication flows in when I move from Outlook and do the same triggering request from a Teams. So here you can see that when I'm interacting the same thing from Teams, so there is one layer because it also has a chat layer. So here it will be showing me the status of connection also, right? So whether the sales copilot service is immediately available, whether I'm going to respond to you in the chat forum. I could also trigger some error messages if I am losing connection and I say that unable to access the data at the moment, and keep on feeding information from the available history within the Teams itself. So all these things are possible. So, having said that, and having seen the key features of the product offering, so I immediately see a couple of benefits that would support the sales person. So first and foremost is its simplest of availability on the day in day out tools which the salesperson would use. So he might have an Outlook, he might access his emails from mobile, or he might be part of Teams and he wants to access information from Teams. So the all these basic applications has the capability to access Copilot information. Second is, with AI everywhere, I need information not only within my available space. I also want to access information about this user in a particular geography, about this customer in this particular territory. So I will be able to use my AI in sales communication. I will be able to access existing emails and meetings, and I also have the insights of how the email conversation is happening, how the meeting engagement happened. So these insights are also possible, so that Copilot is going to educate me on how those histories are available, right? So not only that, I can also use my existing CRM data so that I don't lose any track of available business or engaged conversation that is already there with us. So, and I'm going to create and I'm going to use collaboration spaces with teams where I pull in people from different space for the customer and say, how I can solve the problem in a different way by being inclusive with other, functional areas as well. So then I'm also able to customize their experience, not just deliver what is there, but the Copilot also enables me to customize their experience of understanding each customer and designing the prompt and responses what each of them would be interested in, and have them, readily available in the Copilot environment. So, yes, these are the general information or general benefits which is applicable for anyone who has the Copilot enabled for them. So, with respect to healthcare industry, so I want to understand what all kind of problems a salesperson is facing in engaging with the leads or new business conversations with the healthcare industry people, right? So, because CRM is definitely needed in any such space where we have customer centric conversations. So in the medical industry there could be a lot of requirement, be it I would classify the industries within the health industry itself in due course, but there could be conversations that has to channelize between the healthcare providers and the patients, or setting up a healthcare industry itself, or bringing a new business into an existing healthcare industry. So I see that these are the potential areas where salesperson is reached out to by the healthcare industry, right? So at this point of time, what is the expectation as a salesperson in satisfying the conversation or in helping them align to the business goals? I have to streamline my existing relationship if I'm already engaged in a business or I'm going to engage in upcoming business. So I have to give them a good insights of the knowledge on this territory, the knowledge on the prevailing disease, or the knowledge on the kind of medicines people are interested in the specific territory. Or if there are specific disease and I want to broadcast this, how do I do outreach programs to the engaged patients with the certain hospital? And if there are any compliance regulations which new healthcare industry setup should follow, I have to help them that please see if you are CFR compliant, please see if you are HIPAA compliant. All this I should be in a position to talk about, right? So if I say are you HIPAA compliant, I shouldn't be thinking about it. The Copilot is assisting me that yes, we are compliant, yes, this tool is compliant to have these regulations in place, or it is not possible to have such regulatory deals within the space, you have to enable additional governance. These kind of conversations, Copilot is going to support me, where in if not Copilot, how I was addressing such conversation in the past, I will always buy some time. I will say that let me quickly research whether I am compliant in all these spaces, and I will come and address the customer. So here, Copilot drives and logically concludes the conversation right in the meeting itself. So I have seamless integrations with healthcare systems, and I can talk about what integration is possible, what is not, and how do I speed things up by highlighting the integration which we have already done in the past, highlight the products that we could also focus on when I'm talking on a specific health industry. So I could also collaborate and address the problems. I say that, within your healthcare space, maybe you could consult, the general physician could also consult with the dietitian based on the patient history. So these kind of teams grouping and internal collaboration among the, healthcare providers, we could set it up with. Right. So, and then real time notification of, uh, appointment and follow up consulting required, or if I say that, go and get a specific test done, saying that, that the test report is awaiting your review. These kind of notifications for the healthcare providers. So these are the key areas where health industry is really getting benefit in closing the conversations or setting up the business very fast by engaging Copilot for the salesperson. So really, the Copilot for healthcare industry, we really should say that, it is a game changer at the moment. Right. So having said that, I also analyze the market to see what are the possible use cases, and among the healthcare, which are the predominant industry where CRM needs such Copilot to, strengthen the conversation. First is the pharma industry, where the sales team is able to tell them like how do they design the infrastructure if it is going to be a, health inspection related issues, in terms of, all the regulations the pharma industry should have, and in terms of, generating the meeting notes of what regulatory things we have spoke about, what we are still missing in the conversation. And these are some of the things which, in the pharma industry we have to consider as one of the potential use case where Copilot could play a role. In terms of medical device companies, so we can go and talk to the customers. Here the customers would be the hospitals, right? So I can go and talk to hospitals in a confident way in setting up a new medical device. Could be a PET device, or could be a, could be a scanner, or it could be anything that is a monitoring tool per se, which is going to be there. So I'm going to tell them that your industry needs this product to speed up things, or, to speed up treatments for the patients. And having this tool in place, you're going to, treat, or you're going to reduce your waiting time of patients by, X and Y percentage. So these kind of strengthening conversation I could always do with the medical device companies. So, in terms of clinics and hospitals, so as I said, there are several outreach programs and campaigns that we could, set and bring awareness to people of any prevailing disease in that area, or any upcoming, pandemic, or, influenza per se. We could quickly say that, these are the health measures that you have to take. I have to put a broadcasting message that, where, could be as simple as wearing a mask, right? Or could be, alarming them about a storm, or prepping themselves for the upcoming, bad weather. So the clinics could always reach out to their, patients and patient care people for such things. So the very recent communication which I saw is, withdrawing a product from the market. I think because it had, one of the viruses that could spread through the food. It was carrots and eggs, and the market was withdrawing those things if bought from a specific store. So in those scenarios, I could always reach out to my patients, saying who are living in that particular territory, saying, I hope you are aware about this communication. Just wanted to ensure your safety. If you feel any discomfort, you can always take an appointment and have a follow up checkup done. So these kind of, outreach programs, so that patient is feeling so engaged and so confident to come back to my clinic and hospital, right, in opening up of such things. So these are the possible use cases. Also the insurance companies, definitely, when I talk about any specific insurance product, so I know the existing ailments of the patient, so I could tell them that, what are the policies that, in case he doesn't have, he has to focus on. And in case, the hospital is having tie up programs, how, to whom I have to, divert him for further conversation, right? So these kind of things I see potential possible use cases of having a copilot and enabling salesperson to go and confidently approach these industries, right? Yes, I can solve your problem, not just sales, but also compliant problem that you have in the industry. So having said this, I'm going to take you to the Copilot screen and see how we are able to facilitate these conversations. So I also want to touch base on the availability. If you ask me, if is Copilot available for everyone or for every region? So I brought in some references from the Microsoft. So you can always go and refer to the Microsoft site on the international availability of Copilot. And in certain region Copilot is available, but it is still not compliant to have Azure OpenAI integrated to that. So region wise and feature wise availability is listed in the Microsoft portal. So maybe I will share this information also in the chat for us to understand whether do we have to implement Copilot immediately, for our existing functional areas. Okay, so before I say thank you, I would take you to the CRM space, where we not only understand the functional aspects of it. I also want to get the flavor of how the Copilot is supporting us. While I know it is not new for people who have joined earlier in the call, because Sharon was showing us a lot of insights from the Copilot in the D365 space, but it is going to be supportive for people who have joined in the later part of the session, right? So once I have my Copilot enabled, so in the sales, you could see that I have a sidebar open, which is helping me to have the conversation. So it could be as simple as get an information about a specific entity within the CRM space, or ask some engaging questions if I have, or stay ahead and prepare yourself for the meetings. So it is also going to give me suggestions on what kind of prompts that are available and I could readily use with, right? So if you see this view prompts, it is going to guide me of how all my prompt can be. Is it could be as simple as to seek some information or to ask a query, or it will also tell me like how can I use Copilot better. It is going to tell me what are the new features that Copilot itself is providing me in asking a question. Right. So let me ask a very simple question to it. So you can see that I have put a very simple statement because it has got natural language processing. It is going to summarize if there are open opportunities in last 7 days in the system. Okay. So while it is trying to fetch that information, I'm going to show you a couple of data. Okay. So yeah, it has brought in some opportunities. So you can see that it has highlighted 12 open opportunities. So you can see the communication. It is not like data fed, data structured. So it is engaging the way I'm talking as if a real human is responding. So the conversation is as if it is a engaging conversation between two-person, right? So you have 12 open opportunities created. Notable entries include the key ones, and it is also facilitating me with the links of I can directly go to these opportunities, right? So if I need additional information about anything, so it says that the query retrieves top 30 open opportunities, so which is currently active in the system. And these are the key notes also that it is giving me. So I can always tell whether I'm happy about the information it has shared. If I'm not happy, I'm going to sell. So that these are the insights which Copilot will use to strengthen its further responses. So now let me open any one of the recommended outputs from here. Okay, so here you can see that it is giving me summary. At the same time, it is also the Copilot is also updating me about the quick updates here. So it is giving me in a nutshell rather than I go and explore field by field. These are immediately it is summarizing me about the opportunity, what is the estimated revenue, what is the estimated closer date, the key contacts, the account, the key information as such about the account itself. I don't even have to switch screens to go and check the contact entity or account entity or any links that is available for me to understand, the research updates about the industry, right? So all this information are available to me. It is also telling me if there are any competitors available to it, if there are any product insights that I should specifically focus on. All this information Copilot is, giving me immediately. So not only this, you can see that it is also helping me with highlights if there are any that is available inputs in the system. So here you can see there are conversations which is overdue. There are some conversations which has been closed. So if I'm going to ask, are there any upcoming appointments, or maybe I would say upcoming meetings with this customer? So it says you don't have any sales meeting for next 7 days. So likewise, I can train the Copilot to say what kind of information I want. It is going to it is immediately going and looking at my appointment activity and filtering me out if there are any open items to respond. So here you can see that now that I understood the opportunity better, I have a quick summarization or snapshot of information. So if I want to create an email, right, so I can always copy this information to my email. If I just hit on copy to email, so you can see the from sender and it is already copying that information for me, and it will also recommend me on who is the key contact that I need to add if I miss a subject or if I miss a key person that was part of its understanding during the conversations, right? So it is going to highlight me with all those information that you forgot to add this person, are you really interested in adding this person? So these kind of conversation it is going to support me with. So, is it only email? No. So let me go to the accounts directly and see how Copilot is supporting me when I am with the account level. Hmm. So maybe let me open this. So I can always ask, share me open opportunities we have for Northwind. So I have injected typos and I'm going to see if it is going to recommend. So you can see that, it is giving me highlight the moment I open this account, right? So there are multiple appointments, there are tasks, there is an email that was sent as a thank you note. Likewise, it is going to tell me all the upcoming actions that is available. So you can see that, the moment I asked for opportunities for Northwind, even though I had typos, it is able to relate to the communication and it is giving me the right updates that I you have this estimated value worth the opportunity that you have with this customer. All are close dates and it is telling me yeah, it is giving me the link, and it is also giving me further consolidated update of overall open opportunity. It is not limiting the information as say with this. While they become the key information at the top level, it is also telling me overall also that okay, you have from other areas as well which is pending. So now, if I have enabled SharePoint integration, and if there are some documents that is associated between, this specific account and SharePoint, I can always use the search for the answer in SharePoint. So it would, give me results based on the documents that I have uploaded. So here I have not enabled SharePoint, but if I do this, let me see if it is going to give me any updates. Yeah, you can see that it is unable to find any responses. But if there are any, it is definitely going to bring those, information for us. So the meaning of prompt itself is to have, you can have multiple questions, you can ask anything, but if you don't have to confuse Copilot by putting a very lengthy passage, and ask each and every question so that you get meaningful updates in a very short span. That is one reason why we are limiting this information to just a character of 500, so that you have engaging questions rather than ask on a whole or research on a whole, and just use the space and talk about it, right? So the conversation has to be in a rhythm and flow. That's why they have limited the ask or the prompt size to certain characters. So when I move to opportunities, so I want to understand for a specific product, if there are competitors, and are how the competitor is performing, right? So let me stick to any particular topic. Okay, so you can see that it is giving me the available competitors, and it is based on which appears multiple times. It says, from how it is arriving at this information, right? It is arriving at this information from the opportunity entities, and where the competitor is marked and the product is on the similar line. So these kind of updates, when I'm working on an opportunity, I will immediately, be able to get this information rather than applying a filter condition, looking at all the data and stuff. So is it limited to data within the dataverse? Definitely no. Based on the inputs that we feed or the API integrations that we do. So any data that it is going to interact from the CRM space, it is going to have in dataverse. Any data outside, it is going to be an API integration. Any data related to document, predominantly SharePoint. Likewise, we can feed all our connectivities to it, so that this conversation is very engaging, and this conversation is based on the real system specific data, and not the data from the open market. So likewise, the sales copilot is readily able to talk to all the information that is available, which is available for a salesperson to interact with. So if I am going to ask a specific question on okay, it's saying me you don't have any meetings. Okay, you can see that the system is not yet configured for this specific information. So I don't know what are the channels through which my emails are coming in. So it says I can only answer questions about the data in this app. So read about the things I can help you with. So this way it is politely telling me on I don't have this information access, right? So if I'm going to tell high performing opportunities. Okay, so it says it doesn't have any information at the moment, but it directly, because it was able to relate to opportunities, so it is taking me to the opportunity entity. So likewise, based on the amount of information that it has got trained or it is able to understand, the accuracy of the result would be accordingly, set. So for example, if I'm going to ask in the terminology that it can understand, right? Uh, So while on an opportunity, all the summary that we are generating, so this summary is also visible for us if we want to access this information in a particular record summary, or in a custom field if I want to have this information. So technically that is also possible for me, and I can take this opportunity summary or lead summary way back to the account when the account is fully set up. So it is still not able to understand what we are talking about. So, or maybe I will say opportunities with estimated revenue more than dollar, right? Okay. So when I'm talking in the term which is able to understand, it is giving me results immediately. You have it is, and the information what we get is also relevant. So you get three opportunities, which is more than this. We can see that it is also telling me, the amount. So maybe I can open one of them and quickly check. Yeah, what is the estimated amount and what is the budgeted amount, right? So if I am going to prompt it with any questions related to the information that is available, like competitors, or which is the sales team who is working on it, who are the key stakeholders, or give me more information about the customer. Do you have market research update? Could be any information that we could ask, and the Copilot is going to respond us with. So if I see, is this the way Copilot is going to interact? Can I also move this information from the sales Copilot to a different tenant? When I mean that, I mean, I am setting up multiple environments in the CRM space. So this Copilot is very very specific to the environment where I have configured this sales hub with. So this Copilot cannot go and work on a data until and unless I provide an external configuration or a data source for me to access data from a different system. So what does that mean? So I might have a development environment. I might have a a quality environment. I will have a real production system. So will the data be isolated on which the sales copilot is working on? Yes, the data works in isolation. So dev data's copilot would work on or research information from the dev data that is available in the sales hub, and production data obviously with the production data that is available in the sales hub, right? So and the products and information, everything is limited to the data that is configured in the respective environment. So this is one of the key thing that I have to highlight, because Copilot is enabled at the environment level, so which helps us in not mixing up with data which is a trained data, and not mixing up with data which is a real time data. Yeah, so likewise, I mean, we could build use cases, but when I categorize any other questions or any other interactions I have within the sales ecosystem, so I could see that, they all summarize and, get updated under this one umbrella. So if you see the maybe the entity with which I am interacting is different, but in reality they all fall under one of these key featured umbrella. Like it could be, we have seen that it is summarizing me on the account, on the opportunity, on the lead, or the highlights that has changed, or helping me compose an email and respond an email. So but the feature is rounding around these areas. So with this I see that I touch based on the application of Copilot. So now I want to use the rest of 10 minutes to understand if you have any queries, or is there anything in particular that you are looking for, which I could, show that in the, enabled environment.
Thank you, Devi. Okay, guys, question and answers time. So you can ask all your questions in relation to Copilot. Let's have a look. Okay, any questions at all, just drop them in the chat, guys. No questions, a silly question. Now's your time to ask.
So anyone interested to deep dive into the architecture, or yeah, could be anything. I'm open to any questions.
No questions? I guess your session was very, very, to be honest, it was very comprehensive. You broke down the architecture, you broke down the various use cases it supports. You showed how it's grounded. Oh, here we go. So Subi is asking, are there any links or guides for setting up Copilot for sales?
Yes. So I would recommend, learn.microsoft.com. It has ample information in it. So beyond that, if you want, there are, the very good community blogs that you can access directly from Power Community as such. But I will also make sure I leave some of them in the chat post this, session, so that you could readily take a look. But my first go-to place is learn.microsoft.com, because it covers every feature and every limitation in a specific region on the availability of the product and usage of the product.
Thank you. There's a question by Gozia who's asking, could you show how to train the Copilot, please?
Okay. So training as such, Copilot is by giving it engaging conversation and feeding it with the data. So if you see here, right? So these are the prompts it will run around. But based on the questions that you keep on asking, right? Ask a question about the data in the amount of data that you ask. That is how Copilot trains itself. It is not a custom AI model that you are allowed to customize the way it is getting trained, but this is a set product which will train based on the triggers and conversation and data that is fed in.
Okay, it's feedback from Suthi. Thank you. It was a great session. Okay, any other questions? I guess one of the common questions, Debbie, that a lot of people ask, and I'm sure your customers have asked you, is around licensing, right? It's around the number of questions you can ask. And I think it's important for the attendees to also be aware of that constraint. Would you be happy to share a little bit of information about
Yes. Let me see if I have updated it in the slide. But yeah.
that? So not the
Yeah,
cost
maybe.
specific, but the constraint, you know?
Yes, I agree with that limitation. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I think the links here is also talking about the numbers. So you are definitely expected to be on the premium license to avail the complete features of Copilot. So I will leave the number in the chat on exactly how many questions you are allowed to ask at the moment. But the good part is, you could configure additional, chat triggers outside of the Copilot and, have them engaged until that point, right? So, but yes, there is a limitation, and maybe I will call out the exact number in the chat for everybody's understanding on what is the number of questions I can ask. And the good part is those number of questions are valid for a month. So these are the questions that you can ask every month, and beyond that, it goes back to zero, and you are allowed to interact new set of questions, right? It is not accumulating for the period you are licensed.
And I just want to mention something whilst we're on this topic, Devi.
Mm-hmm,
It's a scenario that I faced with a customer, really.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
they obviously saw Copilot, they fell in love with it. And what they
mm-hmm,
wanted to do was they wanted
mm-hmm,
to use Copilot
mm-hmm,
and replace some of the standard functionality of
mm-hmm,
Dynamics with Copilot. I'm
mm-hmm,
trying to rack my brain to think of the exact scenario, but what they wanted to do was rather than use reports, for example,
mm-hmm,
in Dynamics, or use standard views
mm-hmm,
to view the data, they
mm-hmm,
wanted obviously to use Copilot to do
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm,
But I think that can be dangerous if, for example, they're triggering Copilot continuously. So, for example, every time they, for
mm-hmm,
example, click just to view data,
mm-hmm.
they're having to invoke Copilot, because then you can end up using up all your credits, right? Your allocation
Right,
for a
right.
given month. So that's one thing I would warn people about is really is, yeah, Copilot's fantastic. It's a productivity booster, but at the same time, you don't want to try and use it to replace standard functionality when it comes to Dynamics user navigation. You still have a responsibility to build the application in a
Mm,
user-friendly way.
mm,
But this is where, and I guess this is where yourself as consultant, so the people on the call who are consultants, and there's also people who are using the system, you are also
mm-hmm,
consultants, because you have to guide the business on the correct way to drive your productivity. And I think um, we just need to kind of be cognizant of ensuring that we are implementing Copilot in the right use cases. And you've shown the use cases, the common use cases, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we want to do, just kind of remind everyone about certain limits when it comes to the number of calls you can make per user per month. Now, we're at the end of the session now, Debbie, but you gave a very informative session. And there are many use cases. Healthcare is definitely I would put that at the top of my list when it comes to use cases.
Yep.
I think what we could do in the future, and we'll be doing this in maybe one of the next events, is showing how to add custom data models to Copilot
Mm-hmm,
to be able to for more specific scenarios. One of the questions was around LLM and the
mm-hmm,
training. As you rightly
mm-hmm,
mentioned, for
mm-hmm.
Copilot, the training is not really an issue because, as you rightly mentioned, because it's built on, it's using GPT, right?
Yep,
A lot of the training is not required in those
yep,
scenarios. If it was
yep.
an LLM, then it would be
Mm,
required. And I guess one more thing to mention is the excitement around Copilot, or should we call them agents, as Sharon was alluding to earlier,
mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
that the LLMs, the whole idea behind Copilots and LLMs is we are no longer having to worry about training the LLM, right? That's
Yes.
the great thing about Copilots and agents is it's a solution where you already have a foundation in the
Mm,
LLM. You have the core learning models and training already done and baselined,
mm,
and then you have the agents that then use that baseline to then um, um, provide, perform the queries and generate the answers. And so it kind of overlaps, it kind of avoids the whole, traditional language learning and training the
Yes.
models. So that's quite interesting. That's why I think there's a lot of buzz around the architecture, right,
The
Devi?
other key factor, Raz, to highlight is because we are enabling it in the tenant, right? So you could write a lot of LLM models outside as well. But why Copilot is very special is, it brings the data governance, the GDPR, DLP policies, everything is, aligned because we are in the governed, cloud environment of Microsoft. So that adds additional value. And because this is under the Microsoft suite, I also have access to Azure OpenAI. I could always have control of the LLMs, and uh, uh, have to not worry about the GDPR or because data, I am 100% confident that my data is not going to go out, right? So that is one of the key thing. You might feel that when you're interacting with the Copilot, the data that you are interacting, it does not leave your system, core CRM system, at any point of time. While it may refer to multiple systems, but your research or data, it is not accessible to anyone for the system that it is talking to, which is one of the key points that I had to highlight.
Yeah, no, thanks
Yeah,
for confirming that, Debbie, because that's definitely one of the key concerns of customers when it comes to using
yeah,
AI and GPT. Is that Microsoft has secured it within Azure and within the
yeah,
tenant,
yeah,
but we can extend it, right? We can
yeah,
extend that capability in. And I think that's one of the other topics that we'll be covering in one of our future sessions. But
mm,
once again, we're at the end of our time now, Devi. It was a huge, huge honor to have you again. Thank you so much, everyone. Round of applause for Devi. Great for you for sharing your knowledge today. So thank you so much, Devi.
yeah.
See you
Thank you,
soon,
Raz.
Devi.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
And Devi, don't forget to share your connection details in the chat so people can keep in touch with you.
Yep, for sure. Mm.
Fantastic. Okay, so
All
now
right.
we're on
Thank you.
to, thank you, Devi. Fantastic. Okay, well, now we're almost towards the end of the year. We've got last two sessions. So the next one is on data modeling, and it's with none other than Joergen. Joergen, you are online. Hello there, Joergen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Joergen. Joergen is
Great.
online. Now, as you've been progressing through the day, one of the key things you will need to do is actually add customize. First of all, understand the existing data model, and then obviously amend and augment that data model to your needs. That is a common requirement for every single project, and so that's what you're going to say to address. And so Jurgen's obviously he's been well known for delivering this content now for a while, um, because often on projects people they make bad decisions when it comes to your customizations of the data model. Also, the lack of understanding of the actual native data model. So Jurgen, are you okay to share your screen?
I'll try.
Okay, you're trying to share your screen. Okay. So Jurgen's had a long day today. He's been delivering workshops at a customer site today. So it's a huge thanks to you for joining us at such a late time in Germany today, Jurgen. Hopefully your internet connection is in the hotel is good.
I hope so. I hope so. So still not at home. So can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not.
Not yet. Teams has been funny today, guys. It's been a bumpy road for the whole event, to be honest. At the beginning, we were delayed a little bit. So Teams has been a bit funny. So you can try again. Let's see if anyone else. I can't see your screen yet.
No, and it does not allow me to share my screen.
Okay, let's see where. Let's have a look. Um, hmm. Okay, you definitely have permissions for being a
Give me a
presenter.
second.
So you may want to disconnect maybe because it's probably authenticated you using another account and it's probably got confused. So you may want to disconnect Jurgen. Um, And then, because it's probably your work account, right? You're probably logged in on your work laptop.
No, it's not.
And then
It's
oh,
not my
your
work account.
personal.
It's my
Okay.
private account. I will
Okay.
try to rejoin.
Okay.
Give me a second. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Whilst we wait for Joergen to join, please ask any questions. This is a boot camp. It is aimed at beginners, but I know many of you are not beginners. Many of you are actually consultants in the space, and that's fine because we are all learning, right? Our journey of learning never ends. And so, and also many of your consultants in other areas, maybe on different products within the Microsoft ecosystem, maybe completely, you know, products in relation to, you know, maybe Salesforce or SAP. And there's a lot of interest in Dynamics and the Power Platform and in Copilot. So we want to make sure we're catering for everyone. There you go, Joergen. So, Joergen, we can see your screen. We can. So I'm not going to hinder you any longer, Joergen. All I have to say is that Joergen is definitely someone who's been very much involved in the community for a long time. I'm really grateful for him to join us and for presenting such an important topic for you all today. So without further, over to you, Joergen.
Yes, thank you very much. So as Raz mentioned, today's topic will be Dynamics 365 data model tips and considerations. My name is Joergen Shladot. I'm a solution architect for Dynamics 365, especially CE and the Power Platform at Avana, Germany. You can reach out to me on my LinkedIn account and contact me. I'm really looking forward to get contacts. I have my own blog with some friends. I'm doing a regular YouTube channel, the Power Platform Learners. And similar to this, I'm trying to organize events in Germany together with friends as well. So there's currently PowerZone running. I think, Raz, you were one also starting this in 2019 with us, and upcoming Global Power Platform Bootcamp as well. But also really looking forward for the 6th year now, joining the Power Community events. I think in the beginning it was the DS365 Saturday, so really long time. So today,
sorry, Joergen, just so you're aware, we're looking at your read version of the PowerPoint at the moment.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Just so you're aware, we're looking at that. As long as you're aware, that's fine.
So you are not seeing the full screen?
Oh no, we're seeing
Okay,
your presenter view. Sorry, not the actual. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah, we can see your agenda screen now.
Yeah, I'm trying to make some.
It's fine. It's fine as long as you're aware. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
gone bigger. But yeah, just so you're aware. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So today I will focus on first some prerequisites that you should be aware of before you start working with Dynamics or Dataverse. You need to know the product. I will go into the basics as Raz mentioned, what Dynamics 365 is built of, so Dataverse and the common data model. A little bit of the apps, accelerators and solutions, Dataverse and data modeling, and then some limitations and restrictions, tips and considerations. So it's really important before you start that you know the requirements and the ecosystem where you're working at. So it really depends on what are the processes that you want to build, which users do you want to have, what other tools, especially from the Microsoft 365 ecosystem you want to use. Do you have Exchange, Teams, SharePoint that you want to integrate in your Dynamics 365? Because these are all possibilities that you have with Dynamics 365 and that you should be aware of, because it's a really benefit of Dynamics 365 that you have these integrations on hand. You also shouldn't know what additional data you need. So do you need some integrations, for example, with an ERP system? Do you have data lake or fabric available? And what do you want to do with this data? Is it just working with a CRM system, or do you want also to have some reporting, export again to Synapse or Fabric? So these are all the considerations that have a direct impact on your system and how you want to interact with your system. Then, of course, who is allowed to interact with which information? So everything regarding security is coming to the basics, and especially to the data model. So you have to design your data model also based on your security requirements. And security requirements may also change based on how the users will interact with the system. So if you have a Canvas app, for example, in addition to your Dynamics 365 application, this will also bring different requirements to your system. You will have your model-driven apps, maybe one or multiple. So for example, you will have the sales app, but there are also other Dynamics 365 modules that you can use, like customer service, field service, the marketing application, or custom applications that you can build on top of your Dynamics 365 data model if you have specific requirements. And of course, you have your mobile applications. For example, there's a specific sales mobile app, but also a field service mobile app, which allow you to work with your mobile phone or tablet, and which have also different requirements to your data model, to your security roles, and how you build forms and views that they are usable on these mobile devices. And last but not least, formerly known portals or now Power Pages, they allow you, even also with Dynamics 365 Sales, for example, your customers to get some data access directly through a web portal, or internal users as well who don't have a sales license but should interact with Dynamics 365. And these are also additional requirements that you should be aware of before you start or before you make decisions. Last but not least, I think this is one topic that is really often forgotten, is inform yourself about the current functionality. So lots of people started some years ago, learned then about Dynamics 365 Sales, but the whole environment, or Dynamics 365 in general, but the whole ecosystem of Dynamics 365 is evolving so fast. You're getting at least twice a year new complete functionalities with the release planners, etc. So it's really important to stay at the top with the knowledge, especially before you take some decisions. So what you always have to do first is get some information, think about what are the expectations towards the user experience. Which views and forms do you need, as I said, for what applications or devices should it be optimized? Which business processes do you want to use? Are these still the existing ones in D365, so which are predefined by Microsoft? Is this enough for you, or do you have your own custom line of business processes where you either enhance the existing ones or build completely custom processes and logic into your system? And logic is another topic. Do you need synchronous logic? So where the record, for example, is blocked, and you get a direct feedback of what you're doing, or is it something that could be running asynchronous? Do you need it in the backend server side because you have Excel imports that are also adding data, or you have an interface and this should be triggering the logic? Or do you need some logic in the front end because your users need to interact and should get a direct feedback, some messages in the front end? So there are really a lot of considerations that you have to do when you're working with Dynamics 365 and customizing it from a solution architect or a customer perspective. A great starting point, or what I always recommend, is to get the current knowledge. Start with Microsoft Learn. So you have these learning paths, for example, for each Dynamics 365 module, where you get a comprehensive overview or deep dive to specific functionalities. You can go through these Microsoft Learn learning passes, but there are also, for example, for each Dynamics 365 module, specific landing pages where you have a real in-depth description of all the functionalities, for example, for sales, how to configure it, how to use it. So it's really a great starting point to know or where to find the information that you need for Dynamics 365. Also, what Microsoft has built over the last years is a business process catalog. So it's not only Dynamics 365 CE, it's also ERP processes, but you can, for example, have a look for the prospect to cash or prospect to customer process, order to cash process. So you will find processes for each module, and it's always described in the top for which Dynamics 365 model this process is built and where you can use it. And last but not least, also great site is the Dynamics 365 release plans, where you can see the upcoming new enhancements of the platform, and where you can see, okay, what has been announced for the next wave update, what is already available as for your testing, what will be generally available at which point of time, and you can also store your marked functionalities in your own list, so that when you revisit the site, that you have directly your own list of upcoming functionalities, so you get a better understanding of what is coming. In the backend of Dynamics 365, we have Dataverse as the underlying platform. So everything that you Dataverse is bringing to the Power Platform, for example, you can use also in your Dynamics 365 applications. You have the security layers, the logic layer, data layer. You have all the integrations and storage available, and Dynamics 365 is handling this for you. Today, I will focus mostly on the data layer or on the modeling part to give some insights or impressions of what is possible, what can you do, what is already available for you. Part of Dataverse is the common data model. So it's the core of every Dataverse environment and shared between the Power Platform and D365. The common data model has been developed to reduce the efforts of mapping, integrations, and have a better starting point for different scenarios. This schema can be used and extended by, for example, ISVs, customers, and also by yourself. And it's always good to know what functionalities, schemas, the D365 applications bring as enhancement to Dataverse, but also there are accelerators. For example, if you're using dual write for integration with a D365 ERP system, then there are specific data models bringing ERP data to your Dynamics 365 world, or external accelerators for specific use cases like healthcare, for example. The common data model itself consists of core tables. You will find, for example, there the account and contact table, the activities with all the different activities like email, fax, phone, and some other tables as well, and especially also for security reasons relevant tables like the user or the Teams table. So this is brought to every Dataverse environment, and you can rely on it. When you have then a specific Dynamics 365 license, install or in use on your environments, then these tables that are a part of this D365 license will be added to your Dataverse environment. And for sales, these are, for example, tables like the competitor, the opportunity table, order table, quote table, and all the relationships between this table. And each table consists of a lot of columns already that you can use, that are part of the views and forms with your license, but they're also already logic implemented on these tables that help you to design your processes or have processes predefined. And back to the Microsoft Learn, you will also find in the developers section a complete list of the entity reference or table reference for each of these modules. So you can have a look at, for example, the sales entity license, entity reference, and you can see, okay, you have the lead table, and on this side you will see, okay, which columns are there, what are the specific configuration of each column. So character, is it a character column, which length does it has, etc. So it's really granular, and you get all the information about your data model at this point. It's at least for the Dynamics 365 data models. As I said before, it's also relevant to know the product and what integrations it brings or which functionality it offers you. So Dynamics 365 offers you direct integration with Exchange and has an Outlook application, for example, to interact with your emails, bring the mails to your Dynamics 365 application. It has a SharePoint integration, so you can store your files not in Dataverse, but on a related SharePoint, and for each record, you can specify the location where it will be stored. By default, there's some automatic integration between SharePoint and Dynamics 365, and we'll create, for example, in an account folder for each account, a separate folder where you then can find documents that you will store. You have a Teams integration where you can add Teams chat that are connected to specific records, and that will be shown also in the activity timeline. And yeah, as we have heard already in the former sessions, you have now Copilot for sales or for Copilot for a field service or other Dynamics 365 models that you can use and leverage and integrate into your Dynamics 365 applications. As I said, new functionalities are at least released twice a year. And before you make some consideration, you should have a look at this, if you can reuse existing logic, what is already built in the platform before you decide that you will create new business processes or logics. When we are talking about data modeling, then it's also important to understand what kind of data model is there and how the data model is on what kind of data the data model is built. So I talked a lot about tables already, and there are different table types. We have standard tables, which is, for example, the account table or the contact table, but there are also different other kinds of tables, like the activity table, where will emails be stored, and you can create also your custom standard and activity tables, for example, which is important to understand is if you create, or for all activity tables, the same security roles apply. So you cannot define, for example, that emails should have a different visibility than a phone call or a task or any custom activity table that you build. So that's a limitation that you should be aware of when you build your data model. Then you have the possibility now to create virtual tables. Virtual tables allow you to select different data sources, for example, SQL Server, but also SharePoint, or there are also some virtual tables now, for example, for other systems that don't bring the data directly to Dynamics or to Dataverse, but the data resides outside of Dataverse, but you can interact with it. So you have this possibility to create, read, update data on another system in the SharePoint, for example, but it will be shown inside in Dynamics. And a new table is also elastic tables, which can be used for large volumes of data in real time, and which has very specific use cases. But the most tables in the Dynamics ecosystem or in the Dynamics 365 solutions are still standard tables. And each standard table has then the option, or each table has the option to create additional columns that you can use in your for your data modeling to enhance your application. For example, if you have a sales app and you see that some specific fields for your use case are missing or tables are missing, you can very easily enhance the data model. You can enhance existing tables that are part of D365, but you can also create your own tables and columns. And with these columns, you have text columns, number columns, date and time, and some specific columns. For example, lookup columns. Lookups allow you to create a relationship between two tables and see the data on the related tables. That's for example lookup. Then you have auto number tables, currency tables, or formula tables where you can write PowerFX formulas to have some low-code logic, or you have some other specific fields like roll-up columns or calculated fields, which you can use to do some basic operations with your data. Relationships are also a very important part of your data model because it allows you how you interact or reuse data, because you don't want to store each information twice or duplicate your data. You want to reuse it by creating relationships and getting the information on other tables. You have one-to-one relationships, which means that you can connect one record with several records on a different on another table. Example here for in Dynamics 365 Sales, for example, is the account to contact or the account to opportunity relationship. So which means one account can have multiple contacts, but one contact can only have one parent account. Same applies then for account opportunity. The end-to-one is the opposite. The difference is what will be shown on the table. So on the one side, you will have a lookup, which allows you to select the one record. And on the one record, for example, the account, you will see a subgrid where all the related contacts will be shown. Then a very specific relationship are end-to-end relationships. This means you can combine several records on table A with several records on table B. With this relationship in the backend, Microsoft is creating an intersect table where this relationship is stored. And in the Dynamics 365 sales application, one example is the contact to marketing list relationship. So each marketing list can have multiple contacts, and each contact can be part of multiple marketing lists. And there's also, to the end-to-end relationships, the possibility to create custom end-to-end relationships where you don't use this out-of-the-box functionality, but you will create your custom intersect table and put lookups on it. And then you have two subgrids on each side, and you can, for example, if you have an event table and a contact table, you can in between create your custom intersect event table, which then allows you to store additional data. So, for example, if the contact joins this event as a speaker or as a participant, which is not possible with the out-of-the-box end-to-end relationships that is available in Dynamics 365 or Dataverse. Once you have defined either custom relationships or the out-of-the-box relationships, you should also go into the relationship configuration and have a look how these are, how the relationship behavior is defined, because this will also define how the system will react for specific interactions. So there are three different types of relationship behavior: referential, parental, and custom. And each will allow you different things. So, for example, if you try to delete a related record or parent record, there might be some restrictions if it's set to restricted. This means if there is a relationship between account and contact, and if there's a parent account and a related contact, the account cannot be deleted as long as there is a related contact. On the other hand, there are parental behaviors or parental behavior. This means if the parent record is deleted, the child will be affected as well. And with a custom, you can set these actions individually to say, okay, it should be cascaded, it should be removed, remove the link, or it should be restricted. Then there's another topic towards relationships, and this is the relationship mapping. This is a functionality which is still only available in the classic editor at the moment. So if you know how you customize Dataverse or Dynamics 365, most of the functionality now is available in the Maker portal, but the mapping is still only available if you go back to the classic editor. You have to go to your table list, go into the one-to-one relationships, and there you have to select then one of the relationships. For example, the relationship between account and lead, or from the lead to the account, better. Then you can select the mappings, and the mappings are showing you which fields on the lead or on the source are mapped to the target table. So best practice here would be that you have the same field name, also a display name on both tables. They must be, of course, of the same type. So you have to have text to text, for example, or date to date, that it's working. And then also you have to make sure if it's, for example, a choice column, that the same choices are available on both records, so that the mapping is working. Then you click on New, and you can scroll through the list on the source and target entity, and you can select, in this case, on both tables, the email address too, which is not mapped by default between the lead and account. And if you confirm now, then this mapping has been added to the lead to account mapping table. And if you now use the out-of-the-box functionality to qualify a lead, which will, for example, create a contact and the account and opportunity, if you have saved a second email address on the lead, this information will be automatically during this creation of or during the qualification will be automatically added also to the contact record in the email address field, which is really helpful because you don't need additional logic that you need to develop. So one example, as I said, is a lead to contact or lead to account mapping, which is available out of the box in the D365 sales. As I talked about customizations, also some best practices that you really should follow when you customize your D365 solution. So it's best practice to have a publisher, and inside this you create then a solution with this publisher, and you do your customization inside the solution. Then of course you should follow some naming conventions so that when you customize your Dynamics 365 system or Dataverse, you can easily identify, for example, lookup fields, option sets. You should work with, for example, that the primary column should have the same name. These are also topics that Microsoft is trying to follow in their solutions. Working with solution has been a little bit has become a bit easier in the past, because now you can set a preferred solution, for example, and all the changes that you're doing are automatically added to this preferred solution. If you do changes or creations outside this solution, then fields that you create will have, for example, some cryptic prefix that is environment specific, and if you put it inside a solution, you can define your prefix based on your publisher. And of course, if you're using solutions, then you are ALM ready, so you can use the solutions to move your developments or your customizations from one environment to another environment. For example, from dev to test to prod environments. Best practice here would be to use, for example, DevOps or the pipelines in Dataverse to do this application lifecycle management for you. So regarding the consideration when to use Dynamics 365 tables or custom data model. So it really depends on what are your requirements. As I said at the beginning, you should know the existing data model. You should know if the existing data model helps you with your processes, because then if you're reusing it, it will help you, for example, with compatibility to other systems. If you have an ERP system or other Dynamics systems on other environments, they have the same columns, they have the same specifics of field lengths, of option sets that are available. So it really makes it easy to reuse it for standardized reporting. And if you need to move data between different systems, you might have less data transformation. There's some existing general logic on specific tables. For example, you can use goal logic in sales, or you have these mappings already available that I mentioned from lead to opportunity or content at account if you use it. These are predefined processes, but on the other hand, they are not specific to the specific company processes, line of business process, and often these processes are not or cannot be customized very easily. On the other hand, custom data model is always helpful if you have really specific line of business requirements. These are processes that are industry specific, that are not covered by Dynamics 365, or if the existing logic that is implemented in D365 does not fit at all your needs. So you have more flexibility and you can build your own logic. You have, and that's another point, you have to build all the logic by your own. So there are no standard Microsoft processes within a custom data model. Also related to the data modeling is that you need to have in mind your security model. So in Dataverse, the security model is built based on record ownership, on organizations, user and team security roles, business unit and hierarchies, and you have to define it for the tables and for each security role. So there are security roles coming with Dynamics 365 sales, for example, but here you really have to look at the security roles and see them as a suggestion, go inside, make a copy maybe, and then customize it to your needs, set the privileges for each table, for each security role, how it's necessary that it's required for your process, for your requirements. That's really one important topic, that you know the data models, that you know the requirements, and how to customize your specific security requirements within Dynamics 365. It gets more complicated if you not only use Dynamics 365 applications, but you also want to use Power Pages, because then the security model is not based on the user in the system, and you don't have record ownership that is used in the Power Pages. Instead, you have to work with identity providers to define, for example, who is allowed to log in general to your system. Then you have web roles instead of security roles. There are 3 standard roles like anonymous users, administrators, and registered users. But you should also create your custom specific roles, because these standard roles are automatically applied to users that match these roles. And if you want just specific users to have rights, you have to work with custom web roles. And as I said, users or ownership is not what is defining the permissions. For Power Pages, you are referring to relationships either to the contact table, to the account table, or you can give global permissions. So here the understanding of relationships really is necessary to understand how you can provide access to the records for external users. So that's one part why I talked a bit about relationships. This is really part here of the security concept that needs to be thought of from the beginning on. How do you want to access records, and through which relationships you can access then the records. Besides security, you have to do also other considerations that you need to do during the data modeling. So, for example, if you handle some options, you have either the possibility to use the choice type of column, which is more static data. You define a list. It's only one value that you can show in this list of choices. But on the other hand, it has benefit that you can translate these values in the translation file. So if multi-language is a topic for you, this might be helpful. There are also the other option here is to work with lookups. So to have a table where you store these values. This allows you to be very flexible with your data. You can have lots of values inside. You can filter them. But the downside here is that you don't have a direct translation of these records, and you have to build other concepts if you have a multi-language system. Also, if you work with relationships, and I mentioned that there are two options for the end-to-end relationships, either the out-of-the-box one or the custom one. You should be aware that, for example, the usability of the out-of-the-box end-to-end relationship is higher. You have two subgrids that you're interacting with, and Microsoft has built here already a very usable concept. On the other hand, if you need additional attributes on this end-to-end table, that's not possible with the out-of-the-box relationships. Then you need to go with custom end-to-end tables. You have to create this intersect table, and to optimize the usability, you may use PCF controls that allows you that it's a little bit more usable than the out-of-the-box functionality that you have here with this intersect table where you interact them. If you have larger projects, you should also be aware of some restrictions that are that are available in Dataverse. So in general, there's a limit of I think at the moment 3,000 custom tables in Dataverse. But for example, based on your license, if you just have a team member license, you're only allowed to have 15 custom tables, which is really a very hard restriction for customization. On the other hand, virtual tables are not counted as Dataverse tables, as the data is stored outside of Dataverse. Regarding the number of fields on each table, there's also a limit based on the SQL limit, and in general, it's possible to create a maximum of 1024 tables, but different table types have a different count. So in general, the maximum amount of columns on a table is much less than 1024, because if you're using lookups, it counts as a 3. If you have choice table, it's 2. So it's really somewhere around 400 or 500 normally maximum fields, but that's already too much often to handle on a form or in a table. Then there are also additional restrictions that are coming with a license. So if you're especially using Dynamics 365 applications, there are fields that have requirements through licenses. For the sales license, for example, there's a goal table where you need a sales license, or if you're working with other sales-specific tables, you're also only allowed to work with it when you have a sales license. Same applies, for example, if you want to work with a case and you want to resolve the case, then you need a customer service license, or for the work order, you need the field service license. Even though the table is available on your Dataverse, only the users that have this license are allowed to work with these tables. So it's always recommended to have a look at these restricted entities documentation or its license guide to see what is allowed. Then complex tables that are part of the Dynamics 365 license also can contain complex server-side logic as part of sales or field service or customer service. And this will also be considered to be restricted by the license. And on the other hand, it's not allowed to rebuild these tables with the same logic or to save licenses, because this would then be considered as multiplexing. So even though okay, there is some logic on a sales table or on a field service table that could be helpful, you're not allowed to save the license by directly rebuild it. So then you have to buy the license instead of build your custom logic. We heard a lot about Copilot today, a sales Copilot. There's also a Copilot in the Maker portal. So does it help you to create tables or applications or to enhance your data model? At the moment, it's not possible that you can say, okay, Copilot, please add some tables and use existing sales data model as a basic. So if you create an app or if you create a table, and even if you say, I want the contact table in Dataverse to be renamed to something else or to be enhanced with specific columns, it will create you a custom table at the moment. On the other hand, there's now an option in the preview that allows you to add existing tables to the outcome of your maker of your Copilot table view. And with this option, for example, you can very easily build directly in the Maker portal an entity relation diagram to visualize, for example, the relationships between tables. So this has been, or this is currently in preview, and this is an enhancement. And I hope that it's just the first step and that it will be getting more and more knowledge about this existing data model, so that the Copilot in Dataverse will help you to enhance your data model, because you can specify then, okay, I want to refer to this and this app model, and I want to enhance it. But this is not possible at the moment. I'm not sure if this will be coming, but this is the first step where you have the option to add existing tables to the data model. Yeah, so that was my last slide for today. And if you have some questions, please feel free to ask now. I'm eager to answer the questions. Thank you very much so far. And thanks for the sponsors sponsoring these events, because it's helping us to have these events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joergen. Okay, excellent stuff, right? So you've now learned basically the plumbing of the data model. So just to kind of add to what Joergen's been showing today, he's been showing you the fundamental concepts of the actual data model in the Dataverse in Dynamics 365 solutions. As he's opened the floor to questions, let's have a look if there's any questions here. So there is a question on, here we go. Oh, okay. So Chris Moll is asking a question in relation to really well put together, delivered talk with lots of useful information to keep in mind when configuring D365. Nice one. Thanks. Chris said in the most British way possible, Joergen. so Chris is thanks for that. Thanks for the great feedback there, Chris. So he's asked a question here. Are you able to expand on, say, an example use case when you would use elastic tables versus normal Dataverse tables? Ah, that's the ultimate
that's
question. The amount of people that ask
that's a
that
very good and
question.
very hard question.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
topic with the elastic tables is the other tables are built, or the standard and activity tables. These are built on SQL, on relational database tables. The elastic tables, there's not a relational database in the backend. There's Cosmos DB, as far as I know, in the backend. So it's really a different concept there, and it's a high volume data that is used here, and you are also not allowed to create all kind of columns, column types in the elastic table. Do I have a use case? That's a good question. I'm not sure if I would store some, for example, not sure if IoT data or something like this would be here a good point. Because on the other hand, this is also a very expensive kind of storage. So I have to say I haven't worked with elastic tables myself yet, because I didn't have the use case yet in one of the projects that I'm working on, because I think it's really a specific requirement here. But yeah,
I agree with you, Joergen. That question
I'm not sure.
gets asked a
Did you
lot.
have already some projects, Raz, with elastic tables? So they are also pretty new, so I think they are available for a year now. On the other hand, virtual tables are longer there, and they're quite useful, either custom ones or, for example, especially between Dynamics 365 CE and ERP, there's an out-of-the-box integration, or to Business Central. I think there's also some virtual tables out-of-the-box predefined. You have the SharePoint virtual tables. So they have more use cases, but with elastic tables, they are pretty new and very specific in the use case.
Definitely, Joergen. So I think you've answered it really well. And that question, I've seen many people ask that same question when they come across the elastic tables. I personally feel it's because when we began the event, we obviously showed everything sitting in the Azure infrastructure, and I think it was primarily because to provide another option, right? Because the Dataverse has data lake in there. It's got so much data sources, right? It supports files now. It's got logs, and I think maybe Microsoft is trying to expand, provide full capabilities when it comes to database requirements. And yeah.
And you now have the possibility to export your Dataverse tables to Synapse or to Fabric out of the box with some configuration. So this is also an additional option that you have and that you can use in your data modeling. Oh,
we got Xanthakis on the call. Hi, Xanthakis. Xanthakis has mentioned perhaps elastic tables would be good for logging, auditing, and history.
Yes, I think for auditing, Microsoft has changed in the last years also the concept. So and for the logging directly in Dataverse as well. So there has some enhancement already done to this. But yeah.
Okay, and Gozi is asking, is that right that the most important difference is that the elastic table transactions cannot be rolled back and can be out of sync in times?
That's a good question. I think I will take these questions related elastic tables and try to do some research on it. As I said, my experience with elastic tables, I know that they are there, and I had read through it, what is written in Microsoft Learn, but I didn't have a use case yet from my and these specific questions I'll need to look up again as well.
Yeah. No, great questions, guys. But again,
Thanks.
I've not seen any use cases for elastic tables. And again, Chris also mentioned that, you know, he's never seen them before. So, but it is there. It's quite relatively new. Within the past year, they've added that capability, and I guess many of the community is trying to figure out how it can be used. But right now, what we have is primarily what Joergen's already shown, and that's what is being used on projects and for customer requirements.
Yeah.
Now, we're actually towards the end of your session now. Thanks for all the great questions in the chat. And Joergen, I just want to say thank you for joining at such a late time in Germany. You're busy on a client site project in your hotel. So I want to thank you for joining today. Joergen, please share your contact details in the chat so people can connect with you. We've got a lot of people from Germany actually joining this boot camp, so maybe they can connect with you as well. So once again, fantastic, huge thanks to Joergen. Round of applause, everyone, to Joergen. Let's give him a huge round of applause. Journeying all the way from Germany. Let's see. Yep, excellent. So some of you are still awake. Fantastic, excellent. So last session of the day, guys. So this is the last session. We've got a guest all the way from the USA. So it's none other than Scott Roller. So Scott's online. Let's have a look if his mic's working.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, Scott. Yes, we can hear you. Oh, there we can see you as well. Oh my.
Hey.
Okay, fantastic, Scott. Scott, so what time is it there in the US?
It's 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Ah, well, thank you so much for joining us, taking your lunch break to kind of join us today and present and really put the feather in the cap on the event with your topic. It really complements Joergen's last session and will really cap off the day. So without further ado, Scott, I'd like to hand over to yourself.
All right, sounds great. Let's see if all the sharing is going to work here. All right. All right, everybody seeing this okay now?
We can.
All right, great, great, great. I'm going to be a little more hands-on maybe than Joergen was, and that's not anything bad on his. He had a lot of good information, but I'm going to be back and forth between my slides and kind of doing a demo in Dynamics and with Power Platform. So that's kind of the approach that I'm going to take today. But here we are, last session of the day for the Global D365 Bootcamp. First date of the Bootcamp series. And two lead-in slides. I don't know which one I like better. I think the other one has all the dates on it, and this one's kind of cool because it has all the Lego stuff going on. But I had a lot of fun with the slide deck as well. Oh, I forgot. I need to get my notes up. 1 second. There we go. All right. So my session is no-code deep impact for advanced column types, business rules, and business process flow in Power Apps, but that also includes Dynamics 365. So we're just going to talk about a lot of the out-of-the-box things that come with really with Dataverse is where, you know, the base that we're talking about here. And so a lot of the advanced column types, the business rules, the business process flows that you get just out of the box, and that we can use either in model-driven apps or in Dynamics, either one, and dig deep on that. And this is the first time I've done this concept or this idea of a presentation. So I'm not actually sure if it's going to take an hour. So we may get out a little bit early just to let everybody know, but I'm not sure. We'll see as it goes. I just kind of have a feeling it may be more like 45 minutes or so. But anyway, here we are, my title slide, after I've gone into a long introduction kind of about the session. But my name's Scott Roller. I have my own LLC called 365 Thoughts. So I'm attempting to do independent consulting. It's kind of ups and downs there, trying to find work and things like that, but it's working okay for me at the moment. I'm a solutions architect for both Dynamics 365 CE and Power Platform. And I can get kind of technical, but I'm definitely more on the functional side. I get pretty technical all the way up to the point of like writing .NET code or plugins and things like that. And then typically I let a somebody else, a developer or somebody that loves to code, to do that. And a big part of that is they're just more efficient at it than I am. If I could take 2 or 3 or 4 hours to do something that maybe they can do in an hour. And so that's where that kind of usually falls there. But I do get my hands dirty with some JavaScript and some other things. So my email, if you want to get a hold of me, is sroller@365thoughts.com. And don't forget the little dash in between there. And my blog is the same. So if you want to go out and look at some of the articles that I've written, you can go out to my blog. I haven't kept up to date on that as much as I would like. I always have great ambitions and a lot of different ideas, but then actually getting them written and out there is a different story. I think a lot of people fall in that category. So, but I am hopefully this year kind of prioritizing that and starting to write some more blogs to go on that blog site. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn at Scott J. Roller. And then if Twitter's still going to be a thing for a while, I'm not sure about that. Everybody's going to Blue Sky now, it looks like. But my Twitter handle is @GishSteel. And I am a certified solution architect with Microsoft, so I've passed that PL 600. Okay, so I don't have very many slides. I kind of talked about that to begin with. We're going to do a lot of bouncing back and forth between slides and a demo in my developer instance of Dynamics. And, well, really, it's just a Power Platform. But anyway, it's model-driven apps. So here we are. We're going to talk about advanced column types. So I've really categorized these into like 5 different types. We have text, we have number, we have lookup, we have file image, and we have formula. So in the text type, we have we could just have a regular text a field, which 100 characters or more. But typically out of the box, I just kind of start at 100 characters unless you change the length of the field. But then on top of that, you could start defining different types of that text field, be it an email, a rich text field, a phone number, a ticker symbol, or a web URL. And I think I'm going to go through the slide all the way down now that I think about it, and then jump into the demo afterwards, so I'm not jumping around as much. But then when we talk about number fields, they can be several different types as well. So, kind of out of the box, once again, a number field is the whole number. You can define, the upper range and the lower range. If you really want to get fancy, you could say, hey, we're only going to make this maybe 0 to 100 or something like that, if you don't want to have negative numbers. But whatever it may be, that's kind of the out of the box number field. And then on top of that, though, you can start defining it by type, where you can have a duration field. But these are all number types still. You can have a duration, you can have a time zone, you can have a language code, which I've never really used before, but I'm going to show one in my demo and talk about what I think the uses might be there. And then we have an auto number field, and we're going to look at each one of these types. And when we think about lookups, Joergen kind of talked about this a little bit when he was going through his data modeling and things about being able to look up and have a relationship between different tables, or what used to be called entities. So sometimes, hopefully I'm not too confusing, but I do kind of jump around and use the new terminology, and then my brain goes back and uses the old terminology. So I may use the word fields when I mean columns, and I may use the word entity when I mean tables. Just kind of hard to get my brain to translate things the right way sometimes, the way I think. But in a lookup, we're talking about either it's a customer type field, which is a preset field that can be related to a account or a contact. And if you don't know that level of detail, I'll describe that real quickly. An account is generally a company that you're doing business with, or you want to capture data with I guess, on a basic level. And then a contact, typically accounts have multiple contacts, and contacts are individuals that you're either doing business with or want to track information, whether it's, you know, business or something else that we're doing in our Power App. And then the other scenario is just connecting really anything to anything in the database, in Dataverse. So we could connect, we're going to see here in a little bit that my example is something I threw together for the not the Scottish Summit, but for the Canadian Summit. And so it kind of has Canadian themes and things, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we look at the actual app in a few minutes. But I've connected not just accounts with contacts, but there's this new entity that I created called Canadian Food, because the concept of the app is that we're a food critic, and we are doing we're a food critic for Canadian types of foods. So we have a couple different new relationships there. And then there's a file type that I, once again, honestly have not used a ton. There's a file and an image type, and they're all based on the file. When you're creating a new field, it's called a file, but then you can choose whether it's a file or an image after you create a file field. And the file is a single file that you can upload, which I don't know the real value of that. There may be some use cases. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But the image is really cool because you can upload an image and then the image displays on your form, and there's some value there. The reason I talk about the single file maybe not having as much value that I can see is that if you can upload one file, well, the problem is you're also going to be saving it in Dynamics data storage, which is way more expensive and restrictive than putting it in SharePoint. And there is a out of the box, just kind of native integration between Dynamics and SharePoint, or even Power Apps and SharePoint, that you don't need a license for if you have a license for the other things. And you can just integrate your SharePoint with your Dynamics or Power App. And in the background now, it looks like you're storing those files in your application, but really you're storing them in SharePoint, where the storage is way less expensive. You can store multiple files. You can get to them very easily. The interface is all really cool in there, and it lists your files out. So that's why I kind of take away from, I'm not sure how great it is to just store one file on the form, but we're going to look at it here in a minute, and maybe you guys can form your own opinions on that. And then lastly, we have the formula field. And so there used to be this concept of a calculated field, and I do have one on my app, which we can look at. But it clearly says when you create a new calculated field that it's going away, that it's going to be depreciated, that they don't suggest that you use it, that they suggest that you use a formula field. So that's what I've done. I've gone out and used formulas. I haven't, I can show you that example of the calculated field, but we're going to use the formula field. It uses PowerFX to create formulas, and you can do more than a calculated field ever could do. A calculated field is very restricted compared to a formula field, and it's really cool because they've incorporated Copilot into helping you create the PowerFX formula. So I honestly don't know PowerFX top to bottom and know all the different formulas, but I do know that I created my PowerFX that I'm going to show today using Copilot. I just described exactly what I wanted it to do, and then Copilot told me, "Oh, this is the PowerFX that you want. Copy it and paste it," and everything was good. So that is, I'm going to check my, sorry about my phone, and so let me check my notes real fast, make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I think we're doing good. So I'm going to jump over into hello, is everybody there? Okay. I think I lost everybody for a second, but I'm back.
Yep.
Hopefully you can see me. Okay. Yep. I don't know how much you missed, but I'll assume I'm just going to move forward here with the demo.
We've not missed much, Scott.
What'd you say?
we've not missed much.
Okay.
You didn't lose us for long.
Okay. Sorry about that. I guess my internet failed me for a few seconds there, but we're going to go and drill down into these data types that we were just talking about, the advanced column types. And let me get myself reassociated here where I was. All right, here we are. So this is my developer instance of Power Apps, and it looks like, it looks like Dynamics, but it's a model-driven app that's kind of outside of Dynamics. I'm just using Dataverse to create this, and we wanted to look at some different things. If I jump into a contact, and I talked about a contact being an individual person that is in the database, and I'm going to use the top example here. So we're going to look at Jim and Glenn's contact record. And when we're talking about, we were talking about text types and for like email. So if I go over here to his email address and I get rid of this, we'll see that a couple things happen. I can just start typing in like Jim. And if I move off of that, it doesn't like that. It notices, oh, that's not a valid email address. So it's doing some validation behind the scenes. And one of the things that we get with saying, hey, we want a text field that is an email type is this validation. So it wants it to be something at something else. So I'll use his company name and then dot. So if I stopped now also, it's still going to say, oh, that's not a valid email because it doesn't have the dot com or edu or whatever else you might have as your email postfix. I guess that's the right term there. I'm not sure. But jim@coho.com is a valid email address. So it'll accept that now. So we get the validation, the field validation with our email type. But then also we get the ability over here to get this nice little button that if I push that, it's going to ask me, do I want to send an email with Outlook or with Google Chrome or something else? And it'll allow me to create a new email straight out of my Power App here. So that's kind of cool. Oh, and now it's trying to create an email on my other screen. So I got to get rid of that. And get back to my, there we go. Okay, so that is our email. And then if we talk about phone numbers, then up here I'll leave the business phone there, but in the home phone, it doesn't do any validation. So I can just put in any series of numbers and it says it's okay because of the different phone types that are around the world. This is not going to default to just the U.S. Phone signature or international, although you can put that in there. I've seen people do that with some extra JavaScript, and that's where you kind of make that next step into, okay, we low code or no code isn't everything. You do need to jump into code every once in a while. I try to keep it as low code as possible, but I do realize as an architect that those coded situations are definitely needed and definitely there's power there. So I've seen people, though, write JavaScript behind the scenes that make sure that your phone numbers are formatted properly. And if you just put in maybe like in the US, we have a 10-digit phone number system with a area code and then 3 and then 4. And if you put in just a series of 10 numbers, it will separate them out and make it look properly. So that's all possible with some code. But what happens is when you enter a phone number, and given that it's the right context and everything, you get this phone number button, just phone button at the right side, and that's by making it a phone type. And if I click on that, then it will say, hey, do you want to use a telephone service to make that call? And I don't have one, so we're going to ignore that piece. But it does open up a brand new phone activity in Dataverse, so I can record that phone call. So I may not have a voice over IP phone system that I can make the call from, but still, if I'm making a physical call either on Teams or on my on my cell phone or something like that, I can record it and the system will automatically pop up that activity for me. So that's just another perk that we get from selecting a phone type when we are creating a new text field. All right, so ticker symbol, I got to jump over to accounts where I had the ticker symbol field. And just complete honesty here, you'll see here this in here in a second, but my ticker symbol field is not working properly, and I'm not sure why, but we'll look at that in a second. But on the account record, which is our company record, we have this ticker symbol, and I put in the Microsoft, stock exchange ticker symbol. And what it does is it will, like, if I just put in lowercase and then get off of it, I think it'll do this. Let me save it real fast. Oh, all right. Maybe I'm lying. I thought for sure that it made it all uppercase. So I think I saw that before. Maybe I'm not doing it correctly. But anyway, that's not the important part. The important part is we have this ticker symbol field that then gives us the ticker symbol button. And what it's supposed to do is launch a new web page that will go out and look for stock details for that ticker symbol. Now, for whatever reason, this is failing and bringing up a blank page, and it's done this for me ever since I've been trying to kind of test it and come up with this concept for this demo. So that's something that outside of my ability to kind of troubleshoot at the moment, but it's trying to bring up MSN and bring up that ticker symbol, but it's doing it incorrectly. But that's the purpose of the ticker symbol field, is to capture that symbol, and then you can quickly go get information about it if you want to. A URL field is something like this website. So I put in my personal blog site again that I showed before, and it will, let me do this. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to get rid of everything just to show kind of the formatting that it does. So it'll start out as a blank field, and then if I put in something like that without the HTTP at the beginning, then it will add the HTTPS : / to make it a full recognizable website. So whatever you put in there, it's going to put that prefix on it as part of the formatting. And then it gives us another really cool button over here on the right that we can click, and then it'll launch whatever website URL that was in there. And so this is my blog site with all my information about me and my articles and my videos and stuff like that. But I can get to that real quickly just by pushing that button, and it'll launch the website for me. So that's when you're using a text field and you use the URL type. It does that formatting, and then it also will launch the website for you. Last thing that I wanted to show for text types is, let's go back to the contact, is down here at the bottom. So we have a couple different ways to have a big mass multi-line text field. One of them is just kind of a standard like this description, where you can start typing text in, and it doesn't give you any kind of controls over the text. It just is a big mass text field that you can use however you want to. Or you can choose a rich text field, which will give you all these controls that you have up above. You can still type in text, but you can change the font if you want to. You can change the font size. You can do bold. You can highlight. You can change the color. You can use bulleted lists and numbered lists, and you can use different text alignments. So you can start getting fancy with your text if you need all those controls. A lot of times I see clients and companies that I work with that just need a standard text field, and this is good. You know, they don't need all those other controls, but if you do, then a rich text field has a lot of value there, where you can do a lot of the fancy stuff that you might want for highlighting and different things in, in that text box. All right, so there we are for text fields. So let's move on and let's start talking about number fields a little bit. And I'm fairly sorry about my phone. I don't know why it is choosing to ring a bunch while I'm on this, but sorry about that. Anyway, moving on to the number fields. So let's talk about duration. So as I talked about before, a number field can just be a pure number, but then also there's a duration type for number, and it is a drop-down selection of choosing for a minute or a couple hours or all the way up to 3 days that you can choose for duration. And then you can use this for different calculations as well if you want to. So you can say, hey, give me everything where the duration is maybe less or more than 5 hours. And you can start using that duration to your advantage for calculations. We also have a time zone field that's a part of the number category. And so this makes sense. It's just every time zone that we have in the world that we can choose to say, yep, this contact in this situation is in Hawaii, so I'm going to choose the Hawaiian time zone. And then the last one that I wanted to show that oddly is a part of the number category is language code. So here I only have one language that is a part of this instance of Power Platform. So it's just English. But if I had other things like German or Spanish or French or anything else, any other languages that there are in the world, and you had those loaded into your Power Apps, then you could choose that language and maybe even do translations based on the selection that you made. And like I said, I haven't used this a lot, but I can see it could be powerful, and there could be some really good applications for being able to choose your language code. And once again, oddly enough, it's a part of the number category, which doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but that's how they've done it. Then auto number. So I have this auto number over here, and there may be other ways to get it to load, but the out of the box way is when you create a new record that the auto number will populate itself. So let's take a look at how that works. There's also a couple of different selections that you can have on. Well, let's just create something real fast, and I'll talk about that last piece last. So I'm just going to do a test record real simply and save this contact. And then we'll see over here on the auto number, it gave me the date and then a 1001 number after the end. So when I was talking about some of the, I kind of cut myself short there a few minutes ago, but you can set up your auto number to have a prefix before it. It can be a string of text. It can be a date like I chose, which I think is really valuable. It shows the date that it was created plus the number behind it. Or you can just have a custom where you kind of define it however you want it to be, where it might be a series of letters or characters or whatever else that is the prefix, but then it's always going to give you that next number in the sequence as a part of that auto number. Oh, and one of the things that I had made a note of here was that if I was going to create an auto number field, I would also make that field this is just me, but I think it's a valuable thing to point out is if the system is generating this number, we probably don't want people to change it after it's been generated. So I would make this a read-only field where the system generates the number, then it's read-only. Nobody can mess with it afterwards. It's just always that value and never changes. All right, so let's look at a lookup. Yep, so this is where I want to be. So I'm back on our contact, and we got a couple different examples of what a lookup is. We talked about this being a relationship between this, whatever record you're on. Right now we're on a contact and something else. So we have a lookup to company, which is a lookup to account. So we know that Jim is associated with the Coho Winery through that lookup. I could use the little lookup button over here to look up a different company if I wanted to, and reassign him maybe to Blue Yonder Airlines or something like that. So that's how a lookup, works. You look it up, and then you can choose the record that you're looking for. And then a customer type is a little bit of a more special lookup field where you could, it's either accounts or contacts. So you can look up accounts and associate that as a customer, or you can look up contacts and associate a contact as a customer. So it's definitely intended to be used in sales situations, but there's a lot of other applications there too. It's whenever you want to be able to associate either an account or a contact to a record, you could use the customer type. All right, so where are we at once again? Okay, we're coming down through here, making pretty good time, although, yeah, we are going, this is taking a little bit longer than I actually expected, so this is good. I'm going to use up probably all of our time. If we come down in here and we look at, why is this not going away? Go away, there we go. Come down through here and we start looking at the file types. So as I mentioned before, I don't know if I really love this individual file type of field, but you can look up a file from, OneNote, or not OneNote, from OneDrive or something that's native on your machine, and not populated in here. So one of the benefits may be that it's easy to get to, that somebody can quickly look at it, launch it from here, and you got that file readily available. The other scenario, if you're not aware, and I don't have it loaded here, so I'm sorry, kind of bear with me and use your imagination. But if you went up here into the related area, there would be a documents listed here, and you could choose documents, which would load a new tab, and that tab would show you all your documents that's in the related SharePoint. So it would look like it's native to this system. Nobody would really know what's going on behind the scenes, but behind the scenes, importantly, you are saving your documents in SharePoint. They are searchable like they are in SharePoint, and you're not using Dynamics or Power Platform data, which is more expensive, but you're using that less expensive SharePoint data to store your documents. Then the other type of file is this image, and I do like this. This is kind of cool, where you can load an image, and then it will show the image, a little thumbnail of the image, and then if I open it, I can see that full image. So this is the image of my, what I put out there on LinkedIn, what they, the real nice looking slide that they created for me, and I'm appreciative of that to promote my session today. And let me get out of that. There we go. Okay, so that's the file types, and right. So let's look at formulas now. And right, don't get ahead of myself. Where did I put my formula field? Yep, sorry. I think I kind of forgot where I put my formula field for the moment. Is it? Really sorry about this. I had this all set up. I thought I knew exactly where I was going, but I forgot. Here it is. Sorry. All right. So here we are. I put it over here. I hid it from myself so good that I couldn't find it. But the formula field is going to replace calculated plus many other things. Not just calculated, but it does so much that we can talk about. And here's our formula right here. And our formula, the one that I created, that I said I created off of using the Copilot little tool, is that it's the hourly rate times hours worked. So anytime that I change these values, if I say I only work 10 hours at $105 an hour, then when I save, then it'll recalculate that. And so now it's doing a multiplication of this number times this number to do the formula. So anytime that I change one of these values, or either one or both, and the save is the important part, because the save causes the formula to recalculate. Now that's 90 times 40 is 3,600. So that's kind of cool. That's what a calculated field used to do. But like I said, formulas can be so much more. It is right here. Here we go. This is what I want to look for. Here's my formula reference. So I looked up because I was curious about what are all of the formula types that are available for PowerFX. So you can come out here into Microsoft Learn, as you can find a lot of different things there, obviously. And you can see these are all the different PowerFX formulas that we can use when we're writing those formulas in a formula type field. So it's a lot more than just a calculated field. There's a lot of things you can do a rightmost string portion. You can round. You can do a min max. You can do averages. You can do trims. You can do uppercase. You can do all kinds of different things that you want here with these power FX formulas. And I'm going to take you in and show you on the back end what that formula looks like. So here is in the Maker portal. I'm in that formula field that I was talking about before. And here's the actual power FX that it produced. But it's this record, hourly rate, times this record, hours worked. And all I really did was I went up here when I created this field and said, let's get formula suggestions by using Copilot. And I just said, I typed in, I won't do it right now, but I typed in, let me do this. All right, this is pretty much what I typed is, I'll clean this up 1 second. Without the ticks around the words, and let me take those out just to, so the confusion isn't there. So I just said hourly rate times hours worked, which are the name of my fields out in Dataverse. I just typed that, and let's see if it'll do it again. All right, couldn't find a suggestion. Maybe it's because I have an extra space here. Hourly rate, yep, times hours worked. Okay, let's look for it again. I know this worked before. Yep, there we go. Okay, I had that extra space. But Copilot has now said, hey, this is probably what you want, which is exactly what I did. I copied this, and then I went to type a formula, and I pasted it in there, and I did save, and now my formula works. Of course, if you're more familiar with Power FX, or you want to get your hands dirty or do maybe something, maybe the Copilot doesn't really recognize what you're asking for, something along those scenarios, you can always just get in here and start typing out your Power FX, and it'll work that way as well if you just want to do it the old-fashioned way. But I did it with Copilot and got that formula to start working for us. All right, so where are we now? Okay, now we're going on into there we go. And I'm not going to presentation mode because I'm just going to be here for a brief moment if everybody's okay with that. We are going to talk about roll-up fields. So roll-up fields are kind of like calculated fields, but slightly different. These are where we're going to gather all of our values from a related table, and we're going to have the ability to filter on the related records, and then maybe perform, or not maybe, but we're going to perform a basic aggregation of the rolled up data. So I want to go back to here. And let's look at our rollup field from the back end in the Maker portal. Here's our rollup field. This will give a better example and maybe explain more what I mean by what I just said by just looking at it. I'm going to edit this rollup field. It's going to give us a pop-up here in a second with how it's defined. And hopefully this doesn't take too long, although everything always takes longer when you're in a demo with a lot of people watching. Here it goes. There we go. So we have our rollup field. And so what we're doing here is that we have our source entity, which is contact. We're rolling up to that Canadian Foods entity, which is a custom entity that I created. And we could filter on just, a subset of that data if we wanted to, but I do not have a filter in place. And then I wanted to take an average of the spice level of all of the Canadian foods that this contact or critic has reviewed and get an average of the spice level of all the foods that he's reviewed and put that into a rollup field. So that's really what that means, is that we have a contact. We're getting all the different Canadian foods or whatever the relationship might be, rolling that up to the contact level, for everything that's related, and then taking an aggregation of whatever that number or information data might be. And in this case, I just want an average of the spice level of all the foods that he's reviewed. So let's go out and look at where I put roll up, and hopefully I didn't hide it from myself again. Here it is. Okay. So right here, you can see this roll-up field has a calculator button next to it, and that will see the last time it updated was about an hour and a half ago today, and it says that his average spice level of the foods that he's reviewed is a 6. And if I click on this button, the recalculate will come up. I can recalculate, and now it's calculated as of right now. And it didn't change because, I didn't add in any new data, but you can always recalculate whenever you want to actively. And I think, if I remember correctly, every 12 hours, it recalculates on its own anyway. It goes through and does a mass recalculate. But that's the value of a roll-up field, is you can get all those values from everything that's related and get an average or a max or a min, or maybe sum them all together and get that roll-up value. All right. Okay, so let's jump into the bigger, I was just going through fields and things now. Now we're going to talk about business rules and business process flows. And that really probably requires me to describe once again, or maybe in a little more detail, the situation in my Power App. So my Power App is, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I do want to use my slides to talk about things, to kind of start things off. And let's go back in the presenter mode. And it went back to the beginning. All right, 1 second. Sorry. I am going to, might be a little bit annoying on your side, but it's going to be easier for me, since I'm bouncing back and forth, to not be in presenter mode. So the business rules, this is a great no-code substitute for JavaScript. So there's a lot of different situations where you do need JavaScript, but here is, when you don't need it, you can do business rules to perform kind of some basic form and field changes. But when you get into those more complex situations, then JavaScript is needed for that complex form logic. But some of the basic functionality is that we can lock and unlock fields. We can add error messages to a form. We can set field values. We can set business required. We can set whether a field is visible or not based on another trigger that's happened. Some of the examples that I'm going to use here in a few minutes are, once again, we're back onto that Canadian foods scenario, but how, when Hawaiian pizza is selected, a business rule that comes up and alerts. We're also going to show on business rules, we're going to set food URLs for based on the food type that's selected. So we'll see that in a minute. And while I'm here, so I'm not bouncing back and forth maybe quite as much, we have business process flow. So as the name suggests, the BPF, or business process flow, kind of directs the user down a path, or to a certain extent maybe even forces some behavior. But we can simplify the business process and focus on the important fields that is required for each step, and we can also restrict movement based on the required fields. So we can, once again, we control that business process. We can simplify the process. We may have a ton of different fields that we want to have the possibility of collecting, but the business process flow is just going to say, this is what we need to know for this step, and now this is what we need to know for this step, and maybe you can fill in that extra stuff later, or you ignore it, but it's going to be just the important things that are going on. Focus on the important fields and make certain fields required. We can have advanced branching logic. So when a certain value is selected, maybe we branch off in the flow. And then during our food critic process, we're going to focus just on what the critic needs for each step of his cycle of reviewing foods. All right, so there we go. Let's jump over here and actually show it in action. All right, so we have we had contacts, we had accounts, we have activities, but then we have this Canadian foods, and this is a brand new custom entity that I created. If I jump into Canadian nachos, which is actually supposed to be poutine, there we go. We can talk about a couple different things. So, like I said, business rules is our basic functionality. And let me show you a couple, and then I'll show you the back end too of what it looks like. But if we choose Canadian Hawaiian pizza, did I reactivate that? Ooh, it's not working the way I wanted. All right, so let's look at this first. And if we come out here into Canadian foods and look at business rules, and it's off. Okay, let's turn it back on. So Hawaiian pizza is coming back on, but let's show and look at what it does and show what a business rule actually is. We can come out here and create a business rule, and we can give it a condition. So in this condition, we're saying when the food type equals Canadian or Hawaiian pizza, which kind of off topic, but Hawaiian pizza was actually created in Canada, which blew my mind when I found that out. That's why I'm using that as an example. And for people that don't know, also Hawaiian pizza is when you put ham and pineapple on a pizza together. Some people like it, some people don't. But when the food type equals Hawaiian pizza, then when that answer is yes, then let's do something else. And in this case, we're going to do a error message that says, you're not Hawaiian, and that's nasty, because some people don't like it. So get out of that. It's on now, so that's good. I'm going to refresh my page real fast to make sure that business rule is actually firing this time. And there we go. So now it's firing, and it gives us this alert type of. And one of the things I don't like about this, is that I would like for it just to give me this alert, but not restrict my ability now to save this record. But it sees it as an error, and it will not allow me to save the record because it has an error. I don't necessarily want it to be an error. I just want it to be an alert. So that's another reason why, in this case, a business rule might not be the best thing to use, and but you can get that same functionality with a JavaScript that doesn't make it an error and just gives you the information. So that's a good point to make right there. But the other thing that I'm using business rules for is that every time that I select a food type, it's seeing what that food type is, and it's setting this Wikipedia URL down below. So when I choose maple syrup, it's going to the Wikipedia site for maple syrup. When I choose poutine, then it's going to the poutine Wikipedia site. And like we saw before, now I can launch that web page right from there and go to that Wikipedia site for poutine, which is a Canadian food, is French fries with gravy and I think cheese curds on it. Something they eat at hockey games. I'm not Canadian, but I know, they're just north of me, so I know a little bit about Canadian culture. And we were talking about formula fields, and this brings up a good point while I'm looking at it, is this is a calculated field. And like I said, they're going to depreciate calculated fields, but at the moment, they still work. And this is how I did the food price and the total price. Whatever the food price is, times 10% becomes the total price. And so anytime that this food price changes, I think it's active. No, it has to be saved. When you save, then it does that 10% calculation. So that's how an old school calculated field worked, is that way. So let's look at I know I'm bouncing around quite a bit, and I am running out more time than I thought I was going to here. Let's look at that food URL business rule, because it is interesting to show the nesting of this. So it checks to see, is it maple syrup? Yes. Well, then let's change that URL to maple syrup. If it's not, let's see if it's back bacon. And then let's change that URL. Depending on what it finds, as it cascades all the way down, it's going to set the URL based on the value of the food type that it finds. All right. So we have that. We have that was our business rules. So let's look at business process flow real fast, and we'll have a few minutes here at the end for questions. But like I said, this first time going through this, so it did take me a little bit longer than I was expecting. So business process flow, that is this thing along the top. that kind of directs us along a path of where we want to go along the way. And these can be very complex. This is a very simplified example of what a business process flow is. But it is, the first step is, let's select a type. So it's making sure, and this red asterisk means that it's required, that we have to choose a food type. And then we have to choose a name for the food. So, we might choose maple syrup, but then they give the name of the actual manufacturer or the type of maple syrup that it is in the food name. And then we can choose next stage. And we'll come over here, and now we need to choose the price of the food. And so we have the food price, and then shows us also the total price. And you can use this to restrict or to focus people on a certain path in business. These could be just the simple things that are needed for each step, and then they can fill in the rest down below as needed. You can also use this to make things required. So they're not allowed to go to the next step until whatever it is filled out. And so it's restrictive, and you are required to hit certain things before you go to the next step. So we have the price, and then we have the spice level. So we have to enter a spice level, and that's where that average came into, that formula came into account before. And then we have the ingredients of whatever food we're talking about. But all along the way, we are making sure that we're getting the right data, and we're focusing people on the right process, and we're making sure that our business process, for the users, we're kind of, like I said, we're quote unquote forcing them to enter the right data, or at least urging them down the right path of this is what you should get in each level of stage of the process. Real quick for the branching logic, I have a simple little demo, and it circles around the Hawaiian pizza theme again. But if I do that, then it's, is it going to let me do it now? Did I break it? Maybe. Oh, wait, I know how I did it. Yeah, I am gonna, sorry, this is not the most well thought out piece of the demo, but I need to go to the next stage, and then I can come back and I can change this to Hawaiian pizza. Yeah, all right. I apologize. I built this last minute and I thought it was going to work, but what it's supposed to do is, let me show you the behind the scenes and what it's supposed to do. It was working for me when I tested it briefly, but I don't think it's fully baked. I don't think I've done a great job of building that functionality. So let's look at what the actual business process looks like and what I intended for it to do. What I intended to have happen was to come out here and select a food type, and then for it to say, well, is that food type Hawaiian pizza or not? If it is not, then let's just keep on going. But if it is, then let's have a step that says don't eat Hawaiian pizza, and let's skip over the food price because it doesn't matter because we don't care about Hawaiian pizza, and let's move right on to spice level and ingredients. So it's a a conditional statement there that's saying if it is if it's not Hawaiian pizza, then let's capture the price, the spice level, and ingredients. If it is, well, let's tell people that's nasty, they don't want to eat that, skip over food price, go to spice level and ingredients. And like I said, I didn't build that properly. It's kind of, last minute. It should work better, but that's what I intended to have happen there. And so with that said, and everything else, that is everything that I got. I appreciate our sponsors, and thank you for everybody for showing up. And oh man, and once again, went back to the beginning slide, which I didn't want. But yeah, thanks to our sponsors. Thanks for everybody that showed up to listen to me. And hope you got some good information out of that. And we have about 8 minutes for questions, if anybody has any questions. I'll look through the chat here and see if there's any questions in the chat.
Sorry about that, Scott. Yes, I was going to say thank you. Huge round of applause. You received, an outstanding innovation from the attendees today. This is exactly what they wanted to learn, and they've learned a lot from you. So there are a few questions here, Scott. Sorry. There's one, Scott. There's one question from Pam regarding the masking, using business rules regarding masking. Pam is asking, I used to use data mask to validate a text field. This has been deprecated, and I read to use formulas, but I can't see how to do this. Any ideas? And then there is another one regarding what about using the recommendation action in business rules rather than the error message? This will not stop you from saving a record. So yeah, those are the two questions or comments left.
Okay. Yeah, so the data masking, I've done some of that before. I think typically maybe the best use is maybe not a formula. I haven't really, to be honest, I haven't tried it that way. What I've seen happen before is by using JavaScript. So I know it can be done JavaScript wise to mask the data. There may be a better way to use, just a formula field to make that happen. But I haven't done it before. So that would have to be, something we go out there and we maybe look at some examples or something somebody else has done, which is a big part of, I think, everybody, how they learn things, to see what other people have done and some other examples that are out there. What I've seen before in data masking is you enter the data and then it just shows up as all asterisks. So you can't see, any letters or anything, it just masks it as all asterisks in the data. So I don't have any great ideas. I'm sorry about that. But I have seen it done with JavaScript. So that may be the only way that it can be done. I'm not sure. And then let's see. The other one was yeah. So recommendation action in a business rule. Yeah, that might be that might be the solution that I was looking for, and I just didn't think about it. Is that there is a recommendation action in business rules that it'll just give you a recommendation based on a value that you chose, and that's probably the solution. So thank you for that suggestion. Thank you for that. I'll have to change my demo to use a recommendation. But anyway, yeah. So thanks for the feedback, and I think I'm going to try to have this promote this concept of a session at other events. So it's kind of my good first run through where I can work off of what worked and what didn't, and get this to be a better presentation. Are you okay? Input mask to force the data entry. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about.
See. So basically, so what Pam is asking is, as you enter the data, it will apply a masking rule over the attribute. So basically, you can't see what you're writing. Basically, I think is what.
Right, and that's what I was kind of alluding to, though, is you enter data and then it's all just asterisks, or something over the top, so you can't see what the actual data is. And even a good data mask is it doesn't even show the length. So you could put in 50 characters, but it only shows maybe 5 asterisks. So you don't really even know, you don't have a great idea of length or anything. But I think that's what's being talked about there. Yeah. Oh, specific format. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that can be done, and that doesn't sound like something that would be done with a formula field, unless there's some weird PowerFX formula that I haven't seen yet that would do that. But that absolutely sounds like a JavaScript situation. Or maybe even if you want even more functionality, maybe even a plugin that does some fancy stuff. But I think you could probably get that done with JavaScripting, where it's restricting the format, and it'll give you, maybe it'll blank the field if it's not in the right format, something like that, depending on how fancy you want to get. But that's probably the best solution, is using that. I read it was replaced with PowerFX. Okay, then then I don't know the answer. But if you read that somewhere, then they probably know what they're talking about, and I just haven't used PowerFX enough to really know the answer to your question. I apologize.
No need to apologize, Scott. You can't know all the answers, but you gave a very good section that a lot of people learned from. And to be honest, a lot of people are still adopting PowerFX, right? It actually wasn't GA until, recently. So PowerFX is still yet to be adopted, and we should definitely be moving in that direction. But as Celia mentioned, regular expressions is what obviously is used a lot. But I can understand why we wouldn't use there's a time and a place, and PCF control you could develop it yourself even but the best approach, to be honest, would be using a proper control versus maybe using a script, just because of some of the security implications. But in short, guys, we've completed the end of the bootcamp today. The first day, we've had a lot of great discussions. I want to thank Scott because it was a perfect way to wrap up this first day. We are treading into more advanced level topics now. But yeah, we've achieved the objective of getting you past that fundamental intermediate stage when it comes to dynamics sales application. So, Scott, I'm sure we'll be seeing you a lot around the world at many other conferences. Thank you once again for sharing your insights and your knowledge. And thank you all the attendees for attending today, taking your day out to upskill, to share your knowledge as well as we share ours. And thank you again for all the speakers who've shared their knowledge today. Sharon's still online, so I want to thank you, Sharon, for staying online and sharing your knowledge. And all the other attendees, many names here. Remember, guys, this is just the first day. We had a few technical glitches in the morning, but we finally managed to solve them. We will be carrying on. So next Thursday, we'll carry on with customer service. You know the agenda. Some people didn't receive their emails. Maybe there were some typos in the emails, or maybe they registered a bit late. But that shouldn't happen for the next boot camps, as now everyone is registered, so you should all be receiving the emails, notifications for the next boot camp links. This is only day one. So for those people who feel a bit overwhelmed, please do not worry. We're dealing with a very complex subject matter. These are business applications, and often our conversations kind of bleed into enterprise, which is a lot more complicated, as well as some complex user requirements, which Pam and Scott and the others have raised, and that's something that we can further elaborate on. Without further ado, guys, I want to give you back the rest of your day. Okay, so there's some other questions related to next week. Yep, so our boot camps are between 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. every Thursday. We'll also be running an in-person advanced level Power Platform bootcamp. So things related to advanced level Power Effects and things like that, that will all be hosted in London in person. So highly recommend you to get to that in May. It's 10-year anniversary, so it's going to be a big event. So if you can get to that, that'll be fantastic. Yes, so I want to give you back the rest of your day to spend time with your families. It's been one of the important things we want to carry on is connect. Sorry, Scott, I forgot to mention, Scott. Please add your LinkedIn so that people can connect with you on LinkedIn. Carry on the conversation. So please reach out to all the speakers, reach out to me. If there's any questions or things that you're not sure about, like Pam was asking today, please ask, because someone else will be facing the same issue, right? If Pam's facing that issue, someone else will also be facing the same issue. And let's address those questions, because Microsoft's platform is constantly evolving, constantly changing. One component gets deprecated, there's new features, there may be gaps, but there's many solutions that we've all implemented. So Please let's carry on the conversation. And we'll see you all next week for the customer service bootcamp. So Ian is asking, when will the register link be live for London? Oh, Ian, the registration link is live. It's live already. You should have received it in an email, the same email that went out for this event. If you scroll to the bottom, there will be a link to the London Power Summit. So yeah. So that is live now. We are accepting registrations for that as well. Yes, so let's keep the conversations going, guys. Don't think of this as just, a one-off event. Think of this as an ongoing mentorship, right? So that's what we want to provide, and this is just to get the ball rolling with that. We want to provide continued mentorship. And one of the things I forgot to share, guys, was the link to the Microsoft Learn Rooms, where you get that continued mentorship. So I'll share that in the chat. There is a dedicated learning room that you've got access to. So if there's any questions, like what Pam was asking, or some of the other people or the attendees, there is a Teams chat, right? That's powered by Microsoft Learn, okay? That Narayan shared at the beginning of the bootcamp. So some of you may have missed that link. I will get that link and share it back in the chat. But you can carry on your learning post event and have contact to all of us, and you'll get the answers. So without further ado, guys, I want to thank you all for attending today, the very first day of the bootcamp. We've got many other days remaining. So this is the first day. So don't feel too overwhelmed. There's still lots more to learn. Thank you to all speakers, and I'll see you next Thursday. Remember, 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. And the reason why we did that is because we know many of you are working, and so it's just to be able to accommodate the time zone differences, as well as accommodate you to be able to fit in the training maybe towards the afternoon for many of you in Europe. So once again, thank you all for attending the first day of the bootcamp. See you all next Thursday. May the power be with you all. Happy learning. Thanks, guys. Good evening. Get some rest, guys. Goodbye.